Good morning again from beautiful Maui, Hawaii. It's January 5th, and I'm just completing my morning ritual here, daily meditation. And what's really, really awesome is in this book, it talks about one of the quotes that they bring up today is a quote from Vincent van Gogh, which obviously everyone knows who that is. My eyebrows look white and goofy. I look like I got Donald Trump eyes. I should probably watch my son. Anyway, the quote today from Vincent van Gogh says, "If you hear a voice within you that says you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced." And I really like that quote because it's very fitting for me because I am somebody who has always been very oppositional. And it's been a curse in a large part of my life. When I was a kid, my parents were both very respected people in the educational field. They were both school teachers. My mom taught visually impaired students, and my dad taught accounting and business math, and led his swim team to the state championships. I mean, so he was very, very well known. My mom was very well known and respected. And I was the kid that was the son of two great teachers who was always getting suspended and kicked out of every school that I was ever in. And I was they called it antisocial, incorrigible behavior is what they called it. I was somebody that absolutely would defy anything and everything that was, that tried to get me to fit in a box. And I always liked to hang around the bad kids when I was young. I was always the person that wanted to stand out. I liked to zig while everyone else zagged because I was someone that absolutely needed so much attention. And so I always wanted to be the kid that the other kids would say, "Oh man, that guy's crazy, man, don't mess with him." And because that's how I felt validated. That's how I felt respected and liked. And I felt that I could fit into some weird space. Anyway, that oppositional behavior wound up landing me in and out of several different schools, kicked out of, suspended, every school that I was in, kicked out of two of them. And then eventually it wound me in the Macomb County Youth Home, which is a juvenile detention center, several times. And then from there I went to psychiatric hospitals, one for 6 months in Chicago, another one in Michigan. And then I wound up spending 3.5 years in a psychiatric or a therapeutic boarding school in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. And even when I got out of boarding school at 19 years old, I was still very much one of those people that, you couldn't tell what to do. Now, my behavior had changed. I've learned to adapt to certain situations, which helped me in so many different areas of my life, especially acceptance, learning to somehow accept some things that I didn't want to accept. But the faster I was able to accept and adapt and then retool and change, the better it helped me in other areas of my life. However, I was still very much oppositional. And I remember when I was 19, I moved in with my aunt. I lived in her basement in Clinton Township, Michigan, and I was working as a host at Chi-Chi's restaurant over by Lakeside Mall. And after I lost my job at Chi-Chi's restaurant, I started working different factory jobs. I worked a midnight shift at Curtis Metal Finishing through an alternative staffs, which is Sarah Osmond's staffing company. I worked at different, all types of different jobs. And then finally I was just unemployed. And it was mostly by my own doing. I wouldn't wake up in time. I would spend, the night before getting drunk and then coming to work with a hangover. I'd get fired all the time. I was not a very good employable person. But my aunt really finally laid the screws to me. She didn't let me sleep on the couch for months on end without having some sort of responsibility. She told me, "Joey, if you don't get a job today, I'm kicking you out." And I needed a place to live, and so I circled two jobs in the newspaper. One was working at Jack's Car Wash, and the other one was shampooing rugs for $400 a week. Come to find out that shampooing carpet ad was actually a blind ad for Kirby vacuum cleaners, where 5 days after my interview, I would be revealed to me that I could make more money than the $400 a week if I sold some of the machines when I was showing them. And so that part of it inspired me because I thought, man, if I could sell some of these Kirby vacuum cleaners while I'm in there shampooing the rugs and it's that good, then I can make some serious money. Instead of $400 a week, I can make 500 or 750 or 1,000, depending on how many I sold. So I was super excited about this opportunity selling vacuum cleaners door to door when I originally came in looking at an ad to shampoo rugs for $400 a week. Anyways, I was really excited. I went home. I told all my friends about it. I told my dad. I told my aunt. I told everybody that meant anything to me. And almost unanimously, most people would say, "You can't make money selling vacuums. It's a scam. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Are you crazy? What's wrong with you?" And normal people would probably take the advice from those people that were influential in their life. But me, being Mr. Oppositional, I never wanted to hear anybody tell me, I told you so. And I didn't want anybody to be right. And so my oppositional, you know, viewpoint of that was I'm just going to show them. I'm going to stick it out. And I hated that job. It sucked. I remember going door to door in January and February in Michigan snow where it's, literally snow up to my knees, knocking on doors, freezing my knuckles off. I remember having white chalk from like a chalky substance on my knuckles from knocking on so many doors throughout the day, the aluminum doors, and my knuckles felt like they were going to break off. My toes were black because the black dye from my $50 dress shoes, George Hubertine dress shoes, would soak through my socks and dye my feet colors because of the snow. And I remember how much I hated doing that job, but I hated anybody being right more than I hated knocking on those doors. And so my opposition fueled my desire to succeed, just so I could avoid hearing somebody tell me, I told you so. And thank God I stuck that out, because that like Bill or Steve Jobs says, if you go back in your life and you connect the dots, this was one of the most pivotal, pivotal dots in my history that led me to where I'm at today. Because if I wouldn't have taken that job, and if I wouldn't have stuck it out, I never would have learned how to roll with the punches when there's objections, when there's roadblocks. Because sales, especially selling a $1,500 vacuum cleaner to someone that wasn't expecting you to come to their door in the first place, is hard. And you get constant rejection, constant objections, and the goal in order to be a good salesperson is you got to overcome objections, and you have to think on your feet, you have to think creatively. So that job, because of my opposition, like Vincent van Gogh talks about, if somebody tells you you can't paint, then by all means paint. If people told me I couldn't do it, and if that curse of oppositional, incorrigible, disruptive, non-conforming behavior wouldn't have been there, I would have left that job, and I'd probably be working at a factory today with, people say that I've worked at the factory for 40 years. I've got 40 years experience. No, they got 1 year, and they've repeated themselves 39 years with very little growth. Or I'd be working in a restaurant or at a bar, or doing something that was comfortable, fun, and easy, but never really got me ahead. It would never have afforded me the ability to wake up in Maui on a beach somewhere and do the things that I really love, or drive the cars that I drive, or have the, being, I bought a house the other day, and I haven't even seen the house. I bought it online and closed the deal without even seeing the inside of the house. I bought it so my son can live across the street from his cousins, because after he lost his uncle, he said, who's going to play with me now that Tito Reggie's dead? And it broke my heart to hear that. And so I wanted to somehow buy the time for him that he could grow up living next to the people that he loves, his cousins that lived in Grand Rapids, move them over. I bought a house literally across the street that wasn't even for sale. I talked the owner into selling me the house so that way he could grow up across the street from his cousins. And you know what? I never would have had that opportunity to provide for him at that capacity if I would have never taken that job. If I would have conformed, if I would have listened to my critics. And I tell you what, man, that curse of being oppositional and not listening and not conforming turned out to be the biggest blessing in my life, because I learned so many very, very valuable lessons in Kirby. Goal setting, even though it was such a shitty, hard job, I had such a great role model that I was exposed to, who encouraged me to find other great role models. And at 19, 20 years old, 21 years old, I wasn't able to grasp that. But those seeds were planted that eventually led to great things in my life down the road. I have great role models. I've got great mentors. I follow great people. I watch the people that are struggling and watching them fail and other people succeed, and it shows me the path that I want to go on. I can't write this book myself. I have to have the guidance of other people, whether they're on the right path or the wrong path. I am able to see other people's perspectives because I'm able to zoom out far enough to kind of take a landscape, a bird's eye view of the landscape and decide which route I want to go. And I never would have had that if I wasn't introduced to John Parker from Kirby, if I wasn't introduced to so many different things along my path. But it all started with my oppositional behavior. And that curse that wound me up in psychiatric hospitals and juvenile detention centers and therapeutic boarding schools and got me kicked out of schools, got me arrested hundreds of times, well, not hundreds of times, but dozens of times over the early years of my life. You know, that curse of not wanting to conform became my biggest blessing. And I was enlightened to something the other day at breakfast. I was saying, you know, like my biggest fear, I have one son, and I don't want to spoil that kid. I want that kid to grow up, you know, I want him to have a tough part of his life that really kicks his ass like my ass was kicked. So that way he's not spoiled, so he doesn't wind up being 30 years old, sleeping on his mom's couch, asking for beer money from his relatives. You know, I want that kid to grow up responsible, ready to take on the world, ready to think on his feet, ready to be creative and kick some ass, ready to overcome objection and overcome adversity. You know, and so I want him to have a tough life, but I love him so much I don't want him to experience pain. And you know, somebody said to me, says they need, you know, like I said, how do I not enable my kid? You know, when do I start making life really hard and challenging for him? When do I make him get a job? When do I kick his ass and take him out of the glamorous lifestyle that he has and put him in a really crappy house and say, we lost everything, we got to rebuild it, and show him that we have to do that? And they said, you know, they don't. It's just part of, you just got to roll with it, and you gotta, part of what made me where I'm at today is that I went through all the struggles. My parents kind of enabled me. You know, when I was a kid, I was spoiled, and because of that, you know, when life got hard, I didn't know how to react to it, so I created my own path. And you know, my son's gonna have to create his own path. And so I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of going in different directions at this point. But anyways, with my daily meditation, my morning thing, I'm working on creating not just habits but a lifestyle change, because I want to continually to try to grow and develop myself and make myself better. And so today I wrote down the things that I'm grateful for, and I said I'm grateful for my ability to often see things from other perspectives, which is huge, not just for my own well-being, but for business and for other things. If I listen more than I talk, if I use my ears to mouth one in that proportion, then usually I can observe and make better decisions. Unfortunately, I do often talk too much. I hang around great role models to follow, and my stubborn oppositional history that created the me that I am today. So I'm grateful for those things. I still can't read my own handwriting. So one of my goals is I want to become better at my handwriting, because if you look, my handwriting is god awful. That's my printing. It looks like the sloppiest cursive in the planet. I mean, I just write like total shit. So what would make today great? One of the things that my daily affirmations I said, I can have nice handwriting, because it's something that I really want to do, because I really don't like the way that I write. So what would make today awesome? Hearing a great speaker at an AA meeting. I was thinking about going over to Waikiki today to meet up with a friend who's on one of the other islands, but I was told that a great speaker, an international speaker whose home group is in Las Vegas, is here in Maui, stumbled into a meeting that I go to, and was asked to be the guest speaker at a meeting this evening. So I think I'm going to stay an extra day just so I can hear that person speak and gain some more insight, because I always want to continually fill my brain with other perspectives and see other people's experiences, and that helps guide me to a better future. What else would make today awesome? Self-help and goal setting, and feeling complete within myself. Feel non-codependent. And that's a whole nother video that I need to talk about, but I'm resistant to talking about, is my codependency. And I really need to talk about that, because that's one of the things that I struggle with hugely. Today, yesterday, probably tomorrow, I've got to really hit that one head on. But I'm very resistant to dealing with it, because it's a real big issue in my life. My daily affirmations are, I can have nice handwriting. I am a force for good and like helping others, and I will lead and set a good example, and I'm loved and worthy of love. And again, I'm one of those people that have struggled with self-worth over many years, and so I need to tell myself that I'm loved by many, and that I'm worthy of that love. So anyways, I'm going to cut this video off here at 15 minutes. I just want to say thank you for spending the quarter of an hour with me. If you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, you know that I share some really pretty raw shit in my life, good, bad, ugly, also the things that I've learned along the way, and hopes that it will shed some insight to possibly help you or somebody that you know, a loved one, further advance their life. You know, I'm not up here and people are down here. I'm right here in the struggle with everybody else. But if I can share my experience of strength and hope and speak authentically, hopefully it can shed some light on you. So subscribe to Joey Zago or follow me on Insta, social, whatever, and have a great day.